This is Roxy Rose, back again doing another video. As always, I try to produce videos that are interesting or pertinent to the transgender community. Although today, really this is applicable to anyone that's home alone for the holidays. And I want to say, to you that are those people that are home alone for the holidays, not by choice, that, just stay busy. And being busy and active and giving of yourself during this time could really improve your disposition during those lonely times during the holidays. I have for a couple of years, even before I transitioned, I've always baked. And I always, share my treats around the neighborhood. I live in a really small community, and everybody's seen me before transition, and basically they've seen me after transition. So there's no hiding here, and maybe that's a good thing. But today I'm going to, and this is not a cooking show, and so don't critique my cooking. I'm going to bake bread because I am going to, I have committed myself to make 8 loaves of cinnamon raisin bread each morning, and I'm going to distribute them around the neighborhood as well as a little charity shop that is here in town that I'm friends with, and I'm just going to give the bread away. I do this every year, not the same thing. Sometimes I make candies. And I'll have to show you sometime. I have some pretty good recipes for candy. But today we're going to be doing bread. And like I said, this is not a cooking show, so do not dare critique my technique or anything. But what I want to tell you is that making bread is really a feeling. As with life itself, it's really, I kind of go by the seat of my pants or the hem of my skirt. And it takes a little feeling. And if at first you don't succeed, just get up and try again. And I've seen a few people, they'll make bread and it doesn't turn out, it flops, it falls, whatever. And that's it. That's the last time they'll ever make bread. And or they'll resign themselves to making bread with a bread machine. And I don't have any problem with a bread machine, although I don't own one. But I just think you're missing out on some really great aspects of making bread. So I'm going to get started here, and I don't know how to edit videos, but I'm sure that you don't want to hear Roxy Rose jabbering the whole time her bread is rising. So I will try to cut this and splice it somehow. Haven't got that all figured out, but so I will try to do that. So, and maybe I'll cut out some of the boring things. But like I said, I'm making 8 loaves of bread, so it's kind of a big batch. So you better, if you're going to make that many loaves of bread, you better be prepared. I've already scalded the milk. Sometimes I use milk, sometimes I don't use milk, but since we're making raisin cinnamon bread, we want the dough to be a little bit more fluffy than normal. And that goes the same with, I use all-purpose flour. And, I don't measure. So we're going to be putting about this much flour. Not that much, but this much. Go ahead and try to figure out how many cups that is. I can't tell you. Like I said, it's kind of a feeling. Yeah, we have a lot of flour here. Hopefully that'll get us through the 8 loaves. And then I've already scalded my milk earlier. And to that, I'm going to let some margarine, butter's better, but I'm going to let some margarine. And this time we're putting that much. Not this much, but that much. So we're going to give the bread a little fat. That'll add to the airiness and fluffiness of it. The more fat you put in there, then the more fatty the bread is, of course. Also, the more fluffy the bread will be. And again, what we're doing, this is not a cooking show. I just would like to encourage those of you in the transgender community to stay busy and give of yourself. Even if it means putting yourself kind of out there on a limb or on the spot. Excuse me. I'm going to go around my block. There's about 20 houses on my block. And I'm going to hand out the loaves personally on my block. And I know for certain that there's a few people here that have no problem with me and accept me completely. And then there are a few that, steer very clear of me in the market. And I'm just going to go hand them the bread. And even if they close the door after I've given them their loaf of bread and throw it in the garbage, I have still made an impact on their life. And I was in control of the situation. No matter what they do, they cannot erase the fact that I approached them with an act of generosity. And whether they like transgender people or not, I have made an impression on their lives. And I think that that's what we really all need to do. Okay, getting back to the bread. Otherwise it's going to go too long. So melting the butter inside the milk. And now I'm going to get some regular tap water, some warm tap water. Kind of like, when you get milk for an infant, you want it to be able to, dab it onto your wrist so it doesn't burn, it's not too hot, because, and it's not a situation where, we're concerned about the temperature, but our yeast does not like temperatures too hot. It likes really nice warm temperatures. And too hot will kill the yeast. So we want to get a temperature of water that's just right, that feels really just right on our wrist, just like a baby bottle, formula for a baby bottle. So I'm going to get some water here. And as I said again, this is not a cooking show, so please do not critique my technique. And I don't measure anything. And yes, sometimes the bread doesn't come out so perfect, but I still have a lot of fun doing it. Yes, okay, so we have some nice lukewarm water here, and I have some yeast. So how much yeast? Well, we're going to put about, I'd say this much, 8 loaves, maybe a little more, or a little more. There's where your intuition comes in. Go by the seat of your pants. Just do what you feel is right. And if you make mistakes along the way, and that goes for bread or life, just get up and just get going again, That's really important, is just to keep going forward, moving forward, learning, gaining experience in all different areas. And that's the same with bread. Don't give up, Bread making is so fun, especially what everybody doesn't like about bread making is the kneading process. They think they need this giant blender or mixer. I think that kneading bread by hand is about the most therapeutic thing that a person could do. Making bread and then actually the kneading process. And what's funny is a lot of times I will, when I'm really stressed, I bake bread. So the neighbors know if I've been through a stressful little time, they have their fill of bread, because I go and, I can't eat very much bread myself. So I go and hand it out to certain neighbors that appreciate it. And now what I want to talk to you about is yeast. A long time ago, it was difficult, 50, 75, 100 years ago, it was difficult really to keep yeast on the shelves because of the transportation problem and storage. And a lot of times yeast would die on the shelves because it was not kept in the right temperature, and because it wasn't handled properly. And so everybody proofs their yeast, and what that means is making sure that it's still alive. Well, when yeast consumes sugar, it excretes a gas, which that's what causes the air in the bread. It's kind of it is a living organism. It's kind of gross to think, it's a little living organism that eats sugar and then expels gas, just like I guess all of us do sometimes. And the byproduct is the raising of the bread and making it really fluffy. So proofing the yeast is not so important anymore because we have a lot better handling techniques, and the yeast is almost like super yeast. It's very much more resilient than it used to be. I don't really proof my yeast, but if you're going to proof your yeast, if you had some yeast on the shelf for a long time and you wish to proof it, well, you put it in that lukewarm water and give it about 10 minutes and take a look at the bubbles. If there's just very little bubbles, then your yeast probably, some of them are dead, or a lot of them are probably dead. And if there's a lot of bubbles, a lot of activity, then the yeast is probably just fine. And then the quantity of yeast that you use, well, some people say that if you use too much yeast, your bread comes out tasting a little yeasty. I actually kind of like that. It's kind of like, well, I don't know. I kind of like that yeasty flavor. That's just me, though. Like I said, that the yeast consumes the sugar and the natural sugars in the flour. But because we're making cinnamon raisin bread, we're going to go ahead and give it some more sugar. It's going to get sugar from the milk that we've already scalded, because there's plenty of sugar in milk. And we're also going to give it some sugar, just some sugar. I have some white sugar here. And again, how much are we going to put in? Well, we're going to put this much in. So I'm going to put it in the scalded milk and let it dissolve for a while. So I'm putting about that much sugar. I kind of like a sweet raisin bread. So we're going to I'm going to stir that in. And we're going to let that dissolve. Some people like to put the raisins in the milk. I prefer to put the raisins in after we've kneaded it. That's just what I like to do. So here I have the scalded milk, and I have the margarine. Butter's better, like I said, but I have the margarine, and now I have sugar. Now, to the flour, I am going to add some salt. You could do it without salt, but I have sometimes forgotten the salt, and well, the bread turns out, it's just kind of like, when you're eating it, you're saying, oh gosh, there's something missing here. So we put, again, this much, not that much salt, but this much salt. And then work that salt into the flour. And hopefully our milk has cooled down. And again, we don't want the milk too hot, because we're going to have to add some eggs here in a minute. We don't want the temperature of the milk either killing the bacteria or the organisms in the yeast, and we don't want the milk to scald the eggs that we're going to put in here. And you could do this without eggs. In fact, if you really want to cut corners, basically for bread, all you need is flour, water, salt, yeast, and if you like, some sugar. And you can really cut corners. In fact, that's what French bread really is. It's just those simple ingredients. It's really basic. So let's see. We have our yeast here that's dissolving. Yeast is a funny thing. It's a little bit hard to dissolve sometimes, and it gets clumps, and it's just funny a little bit that you have to mix it in like that. But it's just about ready. And again, I'm going to just check the temperature. It's okay. It's a little on the cool side, but that's all right, because we have a nice warm spot for it to rest while we rise it, while it rises. So getting back to staying busy during the holidays. As I said, there's a little charitable organization up here where I live, tiny little town, but yet we still have a little charity. It runs a little thrift store, and it does things really nice for the